the best of the best.
Yes.
So this is the time they can roast you, or they can give you very good chance, give you very good, what do you call that, they're sharing so that you can improve on your speech. I would like to invite the general evaluator, Toastmasters 3, to give his words.
Big round of applause for the Toastmasters. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know that this part of the session is very important, but at the same time, I personally believe that this is the one which everybody learns from one another. Because in Toastmasters, we don't have a value called perfection, but we do have a value called excellence, which means that we believe that we can be better another time. We can improve every time, and we may or may not, I would say, you will never reach to a perfection, because even you have a perfect speech, the evaluator will find something to tell you that was not the perfect. That's why we believe in Toastmasters. At the same time, we do that with honesty. One more thing in evaluation is that every evaluator has his or her way of thinking. So they put things accordingly. So which means that when you are being evaluated, it is not Toastmasters or any standard rules, it's their way of thinking about the particular speech or even the particular person. Do not take it personally, but take it personally and learn and grow. Alright, so now let's invite our first evaluator. Make sure you can have a seat. We start with table topics. Me. I know you're very eager, but it's okay.
Yesterday I was like that.
It's okay. He did the same thing yesterday at my club. So let's invite our table topic evaluator. Just to change timer, I think the time is 5 minutes.
Just 6 minutes.
6 minutes, but I think because there are 7 speakers, we make it 7. So at 5 will be green, 6 amber, and 7 red.
Alright.
Because we have 7 speakers. So, confident communicator, advanced leader Bronseki.
Thank you. Thank you, General Evaluator. Today's table topics is one of the most interesting I've seen, where we have a lot of really impromptu table topics itself, and some that even came from various members. A round of applause to UMW. Those that today managed to have a lot of fun in the table topics. Now, it's unlikely you never see so many table topics attempters in one night, but we have done so. Great job. So let us start off with the first person who came up, and that's our Area Director C3, Ken Koh. Now, Ken, you started off with your own journey in Toastmasters, and you moved on into differentiating between a leader and also a boss, or a leader and a manager. Now, what I thought you could have improved, because you are of an advanced speaker, you would have made the transition a little bit smoother, because it tends to feel like this topic and then jump to the next topic, while all the topics are actually linked. It was a little bit hard to find the linkage between how this related to that topic and whatnot. However, as you ended the story about the journey, going to the story of the leader and the manager, and then coming to the story of China, I was a little bit question mark, a little bit there. You had something to do with China, but you tied in with a good conclusion, and I thought that helped wrap up your story really well. So on that note, good attempt, and it was a great, enjoyable speech nonetheless. Next come our district champion for evaluation, Mei Chun. If you were PM for 1 year, and you started off with a quote from Marvel superhero Spider-Man, and we all quickly related to that because it was something that everyone was talking about so much. So you captured everyone's attention there and then, the moment you said out that quote, and that got us thinking what you wanted, how you wanted our mindset to be. Then you gave a lot of facts about Malaysian background, and then you moved on to how your goal setting was. You basically said, okay, 1 year is not a lot of time, so what I'm going to do is I am going to set up an accountability group which will carry on my journey even after I'm gone, which shows that this is a trait of a good leader and not a good boss. Concluding was strong, and therefore, all in all, a great, inspiring speech. However, there's one thing that I would like to tell you, and that is perhaps you spend too much time building up and talking about the facts of Malaysia, which is important nonetheless, but I thought it could have been taken down a little bit so that you can tell us more about your goal setting and how to go about it. Alright, moving on. We come to the next speaker, which is our president, UMW Toastmasters President Ao, leading a support club. And of course, you spoke as the president of UMC Toastmasters Club. And your approach was very heartfelt because you were speaking from the heart, you were speaking about what you are going to do and what you are already doing, which is why we felt that there is a lot of relation and you spoke very comfortably. There was one point where you had a little bit of a pause, an awkward long pause, but perhaps you were trying to figure out what needs to be said next. And it's okay, sometimes when you're up here, take some time to structure your speech, even though it is just a 2-minute speech. Because sometimes 2-minute speech can be very unassuming. When you run out of topics, you really do run out of topics. So you can take like about 10 seconds or so just to formulate your thoughts, opening, body, maybe 1 or 2, and then closing. That would help a lot. So that would not give you a lot of awkward moments. So that was still something that you can improve on. The next thing is, a lot of people tend to do this, the hand clasping, okay? Going back to the middle. If you're not using them, try to put them to the side. Because when you put them to the front, the automatic response from your shoulder is to crouch forward. And when that is the case, it gives a very insecure feeling. You're insecure about something. So put them down and have your chest facing outwards. It shows confidence. Alright? Good job nonetheless, and I thoroughly enjoyed your speech because it was very inspiring to me. Then we come to a seasoned Toastmaster speaker. Watching TJ speak has been very entertaining. This is in fact my second time seeing him perform in a table topics. The first round was during Sunway Toastmasters Halloween, where he actually off the lights and created area meeting. Yes, it was awesome. Okay, and today was no less. When he came up, he knew what he was going to say, because if he was the GM, what does he want to change in UMW? Sadly, he realized that there was a HR person here. So whatever he wanted to say, suddenly, go back. But it's good to be smart. Okay, so as seasoned as you are, I think I've enjoyed your speech because it felt like a mini Martin Luther King Jr. speech. I thought it was good. You went on, if I was this, if I was this, and it was very done in such a way that is very promising and something to look forward to, something very great. Like, you know that you can only expect greatness from there. And part of me felt that yes, he should be the GM of UMW. So of course there's a twist of humor there, and you spoke like a true leader. Alright? Now, there is one point that I felt, and that is, you tend to repeat your points a little bit too much. Perhaps you were buying a little bit more time to think about what to say next, but perhaps if you were to slow down your pace, because while you are saying that, you can already start formulating another thought to bring up as another point. And I thought the repetition was a little bit too evident. Okay, I will not talk about myself. I'll wait for May to talk about me. Then we come to Sri, who got that impromptu, am I who I'm not? There's a humorous start, nonetheless, about telling how you're not a murderer, but you're going to murder someone, and you're not an abusive person, but somebody's going to get hurt, and somehow I know that person. And I like the story of how, under pressure, you say, under pressure, everyone faces pressure, everyone changes, and everyone will go through a different stage in a day itself. So, the tie-in message was very strong, and I thought that was, it doesn't matter what you start, it matters where you end. And that is a very good take-home message. While a lot of humor was ingested, there's a take-home message that will last in our lives for today. Hopefully for the rest of our lives. Now, if I were to ask you, what can you change, would be the fact that your starting was too intimidating, maybe because I am going to be the one, a little bit too intimidating. So, because I realized when you overemphasize on that too long, the message to the other people may have been lost. In a term like, perhaps, yes, the first round was funny, the second round is still funny, but people say, okay, get on, what are you going to talk next? So that's what I thought. And finally, so sorry timer, we have our walk-in, which is Faisal, and thankfully you take up the challenge and do it as well. Honesty is the best policy. You related to a personal story which I totally enjoyed, because what is more enjoyable than something that actually happened in your life? Yes, May's already looking at me because I didn't talk about my personal stories. And then she also brought it in here. So Faisal, your speech was entertaining because you had a lot of humor ingested, and while we know what was going, we expected something, the ending to your story, the suspense that you kept us, we still wanted more. So that was a making of what it takes to be a good speaker. So you have it in you. Are you a Toastmaster member? It's time to join. What are you waiting for?
Already give your form.
Of course, there is a good take-home message from there. And just one thing to improve. You spoke very casually and it was very entertaining, and it's like you're speaking among people you're very comfortable with, and that is good. The hand clasping again came in very evidently, coming here again, the crouching figure. So when you do not have your hands clasped and put to the side, you will be able to strut up with more confidence. All right, thank you so much for my session. Back to the general evaluation.
We can make it back.